I gathered the 10 most powerful species in Dungeons & Dragons, according to Reddit and Discord, to rank and find the actual strongest in the game. But I also brought on the greatest optimizer in the D&D community, Colby from D4 Deep Dive, to analyze these races. We're gonna break down the best of the best to find out which ones are actually overpowered or just overrated. This is a long-form video. Settle in as we do a deep dive to find the strongest species in Dungeons & Dragons. How broken is it actually? That's what I want to call it. I've consulted Discord and Reddit specifically to assemble the 10 most broken D&D species in existence, and I want to go through all of them with you, and we can kind of establish if they're actually completely crazy, if they're just really good and they're fairly rated, or if some of them are actually overrated. So I've got a little tier list that we can put them in with 3 tiers. So we've got Put Down the Meth, which is a signal to the WotC designers to, because some species we'll talk about today really do sound like they've been smoking something. And then we've got in the middle, Hype is Real. This is for a species that we agree is realistically understood to be very, very strong, and that's reasonable.
But not
and then
overpowered, essentially.
Yeah, like certainly the best in the game, but not ridiculous, not completely outstripping everything else. And then finally we've got Just Innocent Men for the innocent, just the innocent men out there who have been unfairly lumped in with these game-destroying, game-warping features, and maybe are actually a little overrated. Oh, man, so we'll dive in a second.
Am I gonna put any of these in that category? I might.
Just I think there's a lot. I think we might have some fiery debates coming up.
All right.
For people watching at home, this is a D4 coded video, so it's very D&D shorts longs. So we'll be here a while. So if you want to do some washing up or some work in the background, that's what we're here for.
Grab a snack, you know.
Lock in.
Yeah, get comfy.
But first, I do want to talk very quickly about a Kickstarter that's going on right now that you might have heard of, called Mythozoology. Mythozoology is a dual-book, massive expansion to the 5e system. So epic, it crashed Kickstarter on launch. Conjure gods in a Final Fantasy-inspired summoning system. Pilot mechs as a team with Pacific Rim-inspired vehicle versus kaiju battles. Armor mastery mechanics. Sekiro-inspired prostheses. Harvest, craft, and brew magic items, potions, and elixirs. And battle hordes of deadly monsters. Plus, over 26 new subclasses and 16 inspiring species. 16 ready-to-play multi-level Monster Hunt adventures, over 40 dynamic new spells, over 10 adorable familiars, and 40-plus badass new feats. It's raised over 2.3 million on Kickstarter already, and we're unlocking more stretch goals all the time. We are a human-first project, no AI, created by amazing designers, artists, writers, and mythologists from across the world. Hunt, evoke, and evolve with Heliana and Ryoko's Guide to Mythozoology. Out now on Kickstarter, link in description.
But when you come back, I want to say, hey, make sure that you use my link for when you go to look and check it out and back the Kickstarter, because I'm on a quest to prove that that my viewers are the best of all the D&D YouTubers when it comes to backing their friends' Kickstarter projects. So I'm just kidding.
I think
you don't have to do that.
I was going to shout you out specifically afterwards, because Colby did something which has never been done before in the history of D4 Deep Dive, and that is he incredibly kindly delayed a video, breaking years of tradition by a couple of hours to catch the start of Mythozoology, which was a huge favor that he did not have to do at all and was incredibly kind. So if you have not subscribed to D4 Deep Dive, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to Colby's channel, it's linked in this video. Go and subscribe right now, because it's just like this channel, but much, much, much better. There really is no reason to be subscribed. I do actually mean that. There is, if you're subscribed to D&D Shorts, there's no reason why you shouldn't be subscribed to D4 D&D Deep Dive.
Unless your time is in any way important to you, in which case. But I will say that if you're looking for something that does some similar stuff, but that can maybe help you fall asleep at night, then I am a great option for you.
So I thought we'd start with the first one. These are, well, the first one I have is Bugbear. And this one came up a lot. So for the Bugbear that we're talking about, it's the most recent one from the 2014 rules, technically. But it's the Mordenkainen's Multiverse one.
Monsters of the Multiverse.
Yeah, that's
right.
it.
Mom,
so,
as I affectionately call it.
Yes. A good book for just getting a lot of species at once, I think.
Yeah, and some really good ones and some not so good ones and some probably overpowered ones, which to me, this one, it might be the most, well, maybe not, but up there with Put Down the Meth. Like,
I'm glad you said that, because I think this one's quite a clear-cut case as well. Should I read through the important abilities at least?
Yeah. And we can cut that to delay our verdict until after you've read.
I'm happy to put it here right now. I think anyone who's played a Bugbear or seen one in action would understand that this is unbelievable. But I think it's an interesting discussion to talk about why it's so crazy and maybe what could be tweaked to have made it a lot more reasonable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just in case anyone doesn't know. So a Bugbear, a few things. First of all, you have 60 feet of dark vision. You have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charmed condition, which is actually a pretty good ability for, like, that's a common condition in D&D, I think.
Yeah.
The first of the really good features, I think, is long-limbed. So when you make a melee attack on your turn, your reach is 5 feet greater than normal. So you can attack, every weapon becomes a reach weapon for you, basically, and you can attack and then retreat without provoking opportunity attacks, potentially very good. And they've got a stealth proficiency, but I think the big feature is called surprise attack. And I'll read it for you just to be very clear. If you hit a creature with an attack roll, that creature takes an extra 2d6 damage if it hasn't taken a turn yet in the current combat.
I think both of us have probably been guilty of abusing that feature. I know I have in builds, right? And you know what's interesting about it actually is that I almost feel like now that 5.5 is here and WotC has done so much to really curb burst damage, right? By limiting how many times you can smite, by, you know, limiting like assassin automatic critical stuff, grave cleric. Well, the UA version of the grave cleric that we've seen doesn't do the automatic vulnerability, right? Like, there's just a lot that they've done. You can't action surge and do like 2 fireballs, right? Like, they've done a lot to reduce burst damage, and yet we've got this Bugbear who I mean, 2d6 per attack, right? Like, and what's challenging about it actually is that I used to do a lot of builds on my channel where I would do sustained damage builds, and then I would do like burst damage builds. And I did almost as many burst damage builds as I would sustain damage builds. And I don't really do burst damage builds at all anymore, because it's almost like, well, that just means I'm doing a Bugbear in some form or fashion, because nothing else compares, right? Like, all you do is just find a way to make a lot of attacks, and the more attacks you can make on round 1, like, the stronger it gets, and you can take advantage of things like Scorching Ray, right? Because it's not a weapon attack; it's just an attack.
I wanted to bring that up. I think that is, for me, where this Bugbear really goes crazy and feels like honestly a little thoughtless, almost. Not to criticize, because I think it's a cool idea in theory. But I feel like this, for the verisimilitude of what it means to be a Bugbear, the idea of a Bugbear, it feels very odd that this isn't at least limited to melee weapon attacks.
Sure.
It doesn't, to me, it's very like, whoa, why are you adding 2d6 to every single Scorching Ray or every single Eldritch Blast?
Or both if you have Quicken Spell. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can. It's unbelievable. But I think,
and then Action Surge. I mean, it can get
and
out of
monks
hand. Really,
as well, with all their extra attacks, and the extended reach on your unarmed strikes is very monk coded. So I think the defining feature, I think, for Put Down the Meth to me is like, does this species make, for certain types of builds anyway, make every other species completely obsolete? Like, is there just any point in playing anything apart from a Bugbear if you're going to be a fighter or a monk or a Scorching Ray abuser? You know,
Right. Or
and I
Eldritch
don't
Blaster.
think there really is. I mean, like this species is crazy.
Yeah, and to the point where I've almost kind of stopped. It's really like the main reason why I haven't been doing burst damage builds on my channel anymore, because it's just kind of like, well, okay, so I'm a Bugbear, and then what else? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, you can find other ways, but yeah, it's like when one choice is so clearly, better, mechanically superior, right? Than every other choice, then it feels like you don't have a choice. I mean,
yeah,
you still do, obviously, but like if you're trying to optimize, if you're thinking about mechanics, right, it's just like, ugh. So yeah, and otherwise, I think the species, like, it's got lots of good stuff, and even you didn't mention the one where it lets you like squeeze into small spaces,
yeah,
or
the
whatever,
sneaky.
right?
That's another thing. Yeah, you can move through and stop in the space large enough for a small creature. It's not like the Bugbear only does this. There's another
Right,
species coming
right.
up where it has a very iconic broken feature, but it only
Yeah.
does that one thing. Whereas the Bugbear is
Right.
actually a pretty good species. If you took out this feature, the Bugbear wouldn't be terrible. It would be,
Right.
kind of ordinary. So this is just
So-
on top of a really good package.
So my question is, how would you fix it? Like, what would you do to change this? Would you just remove this feature completely, or would you just kind of moderate it a little bit? You know what I mean?
I think like from a design perspective, I don't think the idea here is terrible. I think they've removed surprise now, but the idea is that you want to reward an ambush. Really, this rewards high initiative more than a straight up ambush, but I think if this was 2d6 extra damage, but it triggers only once per turn, it would be fine. Probably. I think that would be good, but an extra 7 average damage once per combat.
So you're saying it triggers once per turn only
On the
It's
first.
still
Yeah, so it
only
triggers
against
once per combat.
someone
Basically
who
once
hasn't
per
gone.
combat.
Right.
Yeah. But
Well,
I'm wondering if there's a more interesting way to get that idea across than just adding extra damage. I might say something like, honestly, to me, surprise attack, it would be more like you have advantage on attack rolls against a creature that hasn't taken its turn yet in combat. I think that would be more in line with the idea they're trying to get across, right? Like if you're really good at surprising people and getting the advantage on it, I feel like something like that would make more sense than just flat extra damage. That might be the approach if someone came to me, if one of the writers I work with came to me with this, I would probably suggest something like that rather than just flat extra damage.
Yeah. I mean, you think about other species that have comparable things, right? So the goblin, for example, can do extra damage equal to their proficiency bonus once on a turn. It's not limited to the first round of combat, but it is limited to proficiency bonus times per day, right?
Yeah.
Same with the new Goliath, whether the fire giant Goliath or the frost giant Goliath, right? They can do a little extra damage, but just, proficiency bonus times per day when you land an attack, stuff like that. So it feels like this, if you're going to keep it as damage, it should probably be something more like that. Or if you wanted to just stick to the first round of combat, similar to like the assassin rogue.
Yeah.
Right? The assassin rogue can do extra damage with their sneak attack, only on the first round of combat though, and it's just equal to like their rogue level, right? So it's not even a ton. I mean, it scales decently well. But yeah, I like that idea. I'm always loath to call for nerfs on anything because I'm classically guilty of like abusing anything that might be really strong, right? But yeah, for the sake of the health of the game or DMs allowing this species to exist at their table, it should probably see a pretty sizable damage reduction to that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you could do. 2d6 feels very. It's a kind of a funny number to pick as well. Like, why 2d6? Like, why? It's like, why not 1d6? Did they playtest 1d6 and they were like, oh, that's too weak?
That's too weak. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say because 1d6 would be very good still.
Could it be 1d6 once per turn? That might be too powerful. I mean, that's equivalent to some subclass.
That's more of it. I was gonna say that's like a hunter's
right?
mark or a hex level.
Yeah.
This first level spell always on. So I think that the Bugbear is it's definitely a mistake, I think, of a subclass, but a species. Sorry, but it is something to talk about. I think it's an interesting species.
Yes.
But definitely one of the many very powerful Fey species in the game. And speaking of another one, this is the most recent species on this list, I think. The Changeling from the new Eberron book, which is just really...
Just introduced.
Yeah, it's a reimagining of the old Eberron book. It's very similar, but they did make a few species changes. So I'll read out what this Changeling can do. I'm sure you know, but just for people at home. It's a Fey.
Yeah.
Medium or small. You get 2 proficiencies in skills from among Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Performance, or Persuasion. And your only other feature in the entire species is just the ability to shapeshift as an action and change your physical appearance and your voice. You don't change your equipment, and you don't change your clothes. And the one bonus line they added to this version of the Changeling is while you're shapeshifted, you have advantage on all charisma checks. And you can do this as many times as you like, and it lasts indefinitely until you choose to change shape again.
Do you want to call it first, or do you want me to go?
I would say, I can. I think the first thing to run down is that it really, I think, what people find very, very interesting and broken about this subclass is essentially, this species. I'm going to keep doing that. I think is the power to have advantage on every charisma check across the entire game at no cost, just by being a shapeshifter or a changeling. Sorry.
Right.
So forever you have advantage on everything. And charisma checks are probably the most common type of out-of-combat check.
Sure, maybe next to, like, perception or stealth.
Yes, that's true. There are some others.
Depends on the situation, depends on your table, depends on your campaign, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I would almost... I mean, to me, when I read that and I'm trying to decide, is this, put down the meth or just innocent or hype is real? It's like that depends so much on your campaign, on your DM, on your table, right? Like at most tables that I have played at, I don't think this would be particularly powerful because probably we don't spend a ton of time like in the social aspect of the game. I mean, like, it's definitely a component, right? But yeah, like, you could get creative here and you could do some really crazy stuff. But I kind of feel like at most tables, this is not overpowered.
Yeah, I'm inclined...
I don't know. What's your take?
I'm inclined to agree. I think when you say it out loud to someone for the first time, it sounds crazy. Because it's like, oh, it's just a blanket advantage across the entire game. You don't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. But I think you're right. Like, charisma checks are an interesting part of the game in the sense they can be incredibly powerful. If you can convince a king to do something, you can avoid an entire combat encounter. There's value to it.
Sure.
But also, I don't really mind the idea of those type of checks because I run games much more than I play, and I would usually rather players succeeded in their charisma checks because generally that is a much more powerful narrative push.
Sure.
So, and it also advantage is only as good as your stats. If you've got a -1 in charisma.
Right.
The advantage is probably not going to do that much that often, really.
So yeah, if you're playing a bard with expertise in persuasion and and deception, right, or whatever, or a rogue, and you get up to level 7,
you've got the reliable,
and you've got reliable talent, and you've got obviously you need to have proficiency,
yes, yeah.
right, in those charisma skills. But yeah, I mean, at that point, sure, it can be really potent. But I think to me, where this could potentially be abused is not necessarily in the advantage on charisma checks, but just the fact that you can turn into anybody that you want, right? That you've seen.
Yeah, with the voice as well.
With the voice as well, right? And so I can see some like really creative players and or lenient DMs, do you know what I mean, allowing this to really let you kind of bypass a ton of sort of content and get your way into places that you have no right being in otherwise, right? And so that could be, I guess, disruptive, maybe, right? But you could, I don't know, you could. I think a good DM could keep that from being overly abused. Could you see this being used in any way to like do anything in a combat situation? Let me ask you this. I'm a player at your table and I'm a changeling, and I decide that, so I'm fighting a group of enemies, right? A group of monsters, and I decide to turn myself into to make myself a doppelganger of like one of the other monsters, maybe the one that's in charge, right? Maybe there's a captain goblin and some minion goblins. And I go, okay, as an action, I'm going to turn myself into like this a version of this Captain Goblin, and then I'm going to start trying to issue commands to the underlings and tell them to stop attacking, or you know what I mean, or whatever. How would you play that as a DM? Like what?
I would.
What would you
I mean, so you don't copy their clothes. I think that's a very important. That's kind of the balance patch they put on this. So, but with there are magic items that exist that can change your clothing, you know, as a bonus action, probably. I think I would give you, funnily enough, I think in that instance, I would give the player advantage on persuasion checks to order around other goblins, or deception checks, which is kind of covered by the core ability anyway, so it's maybe less impactful because it's sort of already covered. I think it's worth mentioning as well that really this is a variant on Disguise Self, isn't it? Which can affect your clothing but doesn't change your voice. And Disguise Self is only a first level spell, and warlocks can cast it infinitely for free. They've got an invocation that does that.
Sure.
So you can kind of see this as, it's not like this is the only way to access that ability. To be honest, when I put this on here and when I saw how people were talking about it, I thought it would be in Hype is Real, but I think you might be convincing me to say the Changeling is actually innocent and maybe is a little overrated.
That's where I would put it.
I think you're right. I think you've argued out. I think it's good. I think it's an interesting species. I think it's a good species, but okay, that's good. I think we're letting changelings off the hook. I like that.
And again, I think it's probably more table dependent than most or all of these, right? Like in a heavily social game where combat is not, you know, a big priority, you might not even have a combat encounter per session, you know, and it's kind of an urban heist type, you know, game. Like I can see this being more useful and more powerful.
Yes.
But I think in the average D&D campaign, it's cool and fun and fine.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love that we came to that. I think this is a really interesting one. This is the 2014 Mountain Dwarf. So
the +2
yes,
2.
yeah, you identified it immediately. Yeah. So this is one of only, I think, 2 species officially released, and there was another one in a kind of semi-official release that gives 2 stats of +2 at your start. So you're starting with +4 to your stats, not +3. So just to run it down, so you are. This is 2014. The Mountain Dwarf is now, there is no such thing as a Mountain Dwarf anymore. There's just a dwarf. But if you're using 2014 rules, you have a 25-foot walking speed. Your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. You have advantage on saves against being poisoned and resistant to poison damage. You get some weapon proficiencies. And most significantly, you have proficiency with light and medium armor, and your strength and your constitution are both increased by 2. So that's kind of what the Mountain Dwarf is bringing to the table. Do you want to kick off this one? How you feel about all of that?
Yeah. It's, again, this one's kind of tough because you have to keep it in the context of when it was released, right? It's not a thing you can do in 5.5. But back in the day, I mean, weapon proficiencies were not uncommon for species, right?
Yeah, it
for
was
races,
definitely more of a
as
thing
they
back
called
then.
them back then. Armor proficiency was pretty unique.
Yeah.
Though, right? And being able to get medium armor and shield proficiency without having to multi-class was nice.
Yeah, and no
That's
strength
not
requirement to wear it either. Oh wait, no, medium armor doesn't require
Right.
strength. Actually, does it? Okay.
No. It does
Oh,
still. And especially since you have a 25 feet move speed, it's particularly like you better make sure if you're gonna do heavy
Yeah.
armor, you better make sure. But yeah, you're right. Medium armor is not applicable. But you know, the 25 feet move speed is a little rough. I mean, it's not a huge deal. Depends on what you're playing, right? It depends on if you're melee or not. And then I think that +2/+2 was really good. It was really good.
And with Tasha's rules as well, it
But-
could be +2 in anything. Yeah.
Yes,
So you.
that's what I was about to say. Like, I kind of feel like before Tasha's, when it had to be strength and con, it was like, okay, that really limits what you're gonna want to do with this, right? Because like a barbarian or a fighter,
They already get all this stuff. You know.
or a paladin, you're already going to have the armor proficiency, like, you know what I mean? So, and now you're probably melee, and you've got a reduced move speed, so it's like there's a certain give and take. But then Tasha's came out, and it kind of became, okay, well, let's see. I'm going to play a blade singer, but I'm going to be a dwarf, right? And now I can have a +2 to my intelligence and a +2 to my dexterity. Well, you don't need the armor proficiency, so maybe Blade Singer isn't the best example, but you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're completely right.
Like
It.
and now it's like, yeah, that's really, really good.
I think it does fall into the same area as the Bugbear, where post Tasha's, it's hard to justify. To me, anyway, it's hard to justify sort of being anything else if you are a spellcaster, because you turn sort of mage armor into medium armor, and if you're starting with a level in fighter, which is your bread and butter, right? That's your secret sauce. You're a wizard with one level in fighter who can wear heavy armor with no strength investment and start the game with the best stats, better stats than any other species could give you, plus advantage against poison and some other handy little things. That like a wizard in heavy armor who can cast in heavy armor and can run around only 5 feet slower than everyone else with sort of 18 AC or 20 AC is just as a flat, I think is really good.
Yeah, it is. That said, I don't know. I feel like looking at some of these other species on here, is it as sort of blatantly broken as them? I'm kind of tempted personally to put them either like at the very top of hype is real or like at the bottom of put down the meth.
I think I agree with you. At the top of hype is real seems fair because this came out when this is in the first book they ever did, right? This is in the player's handbook for 2014.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were still working things out. And you can imagine a world where had they gone in this direction, where more species got +2/+2. And you can also imagine a world where Tasha's never came out. So I don't really want to be like, wow, what were you smoking? But I do think this is a really, really strong species and one that you can't really ever go wrong with as a caster, just with all that it brings you.
Sure. Or even again, like as a fighter or a paladin or a barbarian. I mean, there's something to be said for starting off with a 17 strength and a 17 constitution.
Yeah.
Right, and then with your first feat taking a +1 and a +1, and now you've got 2 18s at level 4.
It's just
right?
you are just strictly better than everything else. Yeah, that anyone else could compete with, apart from a half elf, is the other species.
I'm not seeing half elf.
No,
on here.
I thought Mountain Dwarf was the better of the two, and it was the one that came up more often.
Yeah,
so I figured if
you're
we're
right.
going to discuss this idea of +2/+2, this is the best one. But there is another dwarf, and I would. I mean, do you want to give your initial just thought to seeing this on here? Because I was.
Yeah, when I
mean, you explain. Yeah.
when I saw Hill Dwarf, I was like,
No, I
really?
agree.
I mean, like an extra hit point is nice. Don't get me wrong, but like obviously Wizards of the Coast didn't think it was broken because they just made it default dwarf for 5.5, right? Like all dwarves get a +1 to their hit points. Now, granted, they got more than just +1 to their hit points, but I think that's the sort of the standout feature.
Yeah, they don't have any other. They don't get a +2 in 2 stats like the Mountain Dwarf do, for example. That's their only significant feature in 2014. Is just that that's the thing that sets them apart. You get 1 additional hit point per level.
Right.
But I saw these guys come up a lot.
I mean, you still get the other cool stuff.
Yeah, the Dwarven combat,
that dwarves
the poison
have,
resistance,
right?
yeah, the dark vision.
But, all things considered, I don't. It doesn't feel particularly overpowered.
No, I agree. I think this is a slam dunk innocent men, but I do think it's an interesting insight into the kind of culture around how a lot of people maybe not throwing any shade at all, but how a lot of people seem very, very attracted to simple features that just buff your raw hit points. Or just the idea of being, you are the tankiest species. Because this is objectively the tankiest species, you could say. Hill Dwarf plus Tough Origin feat is 3 extra hit points for every level. And you can see why someone might be like, wow, my wizard is normally only gaining 3 hit points a level, but now they gain 6. So I'm twice as tanky.
Right. Although I would argue that there's a species on here.
Yes, I will. Yeah, we'll get to... Yeah, we'll see it soon.
But yeah. To me, that's just.
No, I agree. The Hill Dwarfs did nothing wrong, and I think they're in a nice place. I think it's an interesting, it's kind of a fun idea. I think having a nice juicy pool of hit points is very fun. But let's talk about. Sure. I've got Variant Human here, but this is a kind of a duo: Variant Human and Custom Lineage. Do you want to give your initial? Well, why don't you explain what's important about these two species?
Yeah, it was a standing kind of joke or meme eventually for regular viewers of my channel, right? That like the rate at which I overused these two species, especially Custom Lineage. I would say Custom Lineage is the worst of the two, because both of them gave you free feat. Right, and this was back in the day when there was no such thing as origin feats and general feats. There was just feats, right? So free feat, which I mean, there's so much that you could do with that, and particularly, what you would usually do, most people, anyways, and especially with Custom Lineage, because Custom Lineage gave you a +2 to an ability score of your choice, whereas Variant Human gave you a +1 and a +1, right? So with Custom Lineage, you could take a +2 in your most important stat and then take a free feat, and that free feat could be a half feat in your most important stat, right? And so it would let you start with an 18 in your stat of choice, similar to the old
I was going to say
Changeling,
I think this is
the old
one of
the
only
old
two
Changeling.
species that could ever allow a player to start with an 18 using point buy.
But with Changeling, it was charisma only, right? You could only do that with charisma. Whereas with the Custom Lineage, you could essentially choose, what ability score you wanted to start off with at an 18, and then get a feat that you probably wanted anyways, right? So I mean, you could. Yeah, it was just like.
I mean, I agree.
It was so clearly, in my opinion, it was so clearly, once Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, it was like, oh, well, from now on, any character build that I do has to have like a really, really good reason for not going Custom Lineage. Otherwise, like, that's just the default, right? From a mechanical sort of optimizer perspective, at least.
And I was going to say as well, like the sheer versatility that it brings, because it's not like the Bugbear where we're like, oh, okay, this is broken, but you do have to build around it to make a lot of attacks. But you access any feat in the game. There's anything from, the old Great Weapon Master or Sharpshooter to mobile. There's so many things that could... Yeah, Fey Touch. Yeah, of course, that was a classic. Getting some spells. Magic Initiate. There are so many incredible feats. I think Fey Touch probably was one of the best, because that gave you the +1 and... but there were other things that did really well.
You wanted the half feat.
Incredible.
Or I mean, obviously half feat was always kind of like the best thing right? But there were plenty of scenarios where it's like, well, I'm going to be a heavy weapon melee user. And back in the day, Great Weapon Master and Polearm Master didn't give, they weren't half feats.
Yeah, Polearm
right?
Master was a big one.
But still, I mean, starting off with Polearm Master, and now you've got like two attacks on your on right from level 1 with a D10 weapon, and then a D4 with the blunt end, right? And then as soon as you hit 4, you're firing on all cylinders. You're doing an extra 10 damage, etc. And or sharpshooter, right?
That was it.
Crossbow expert and sharpshooter, right? And you've got your hand crossbow, and so like it made it so much stronger to get really powerful just earlier than anything else could. To me, they're at like the top.
Do you think
of
they are?
The meth.
Do you think specifically custom lineage? We have variant human, but would you say custom lineage is the strongest species we've ever seen in the 5e system? Would you think that's a fair?
I would. Some people would argue that flying species would.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that discussion very soon.
We're going to get to that in a second. And again, but again, to me, that depends a lot on your table and how your DM tends to run combat encounters and what kind of monsters they generally put you up against, and etc. Whereas, to me, custom lineage in particular, where you can start with 3, with an 18 in your most important stat and a feat was just like, oh, that's so mechanically advantageous. That it was hard to justify anything else again, unless you had like a very good reason, sort of for I need to be an elf because I need elven accuracy.
That would have to be it, wouldn't it? You'd need a really But I agree. I think variant human / custom lineage were the most common species I ever came across. Like looking at kind of optimized builds at the time before I kind of had a YouTube channel. I was just interested.
Right.
But you mentioned flying, so. I think this next species is a really interesting case because I want to kind of talk about 2 versions of the Aaracokra. There's the original, and then there's the Monsters of the Multiverse, the MOM version. So I'll pull up the original just to make sure I don't miss anything here. But I think the most significant part of it was that the Aaracokra was the first flying species available to any players in 5e. And you had a flying speed of 50 feet.
Yeah.
Which you can't do while you're wearing medium or heavy armor. So it's light armor or unarmored only. But you have a 50-foot fly speed and a 25-foot walking speed, and that is basically it. You get a 1d4 unarmed strike, which is not particularly impressive in my opinion. Because, if you're an unarmed striker, you're a monk, and they already start with that. So, but that 50-foot fly speed, I think, how do you evaluate something like this, Colby? What do you think about the Aaracokra as they used to be?
I mean, so the medium and heavy armor rule still applies, right, in the new version.
Even in the new version, it applies. Yeah.
But of course they've reduced it to 30, right? It's the same as just your walking speed, which
today it is now 30 feet. Yeah.
And yet, like 50 feet of fly speed is crazy. I don't know that it's like...
Yeah, it is.
I don't know that it's like, oh, now it's broken. 30 feet of fly speed is fine, but 50 feet of fly speed isn't. Like, I think the bigger issue is you can fly, right? Like, this is the equivalent of a 3rd level concentration spell that, like, you just have on all the time. And the problem with it is it's either... like amazing and broken or largely meaningless. Do you know what I mean? Like, and again,
I do know
it depends on your table, it depends on your combat encounters, depends on how your DM tends to run combat encounters. Like, but the fact that like it can potentially trivialize a lot of stuff, right? And so it requires, like, if you're gonna allow any flying species at your table, owlins, fairies, whatever, as a DM, like it puts a big burden on you to be like, okay, wait, one of my players can fly all the time. Like, what's that going to do to this combat encounter? And how do I do this differently as a result, kind of thing, right? So yeah, it's tough. It's tough for me to decide like where I put this because sometimes it's not going to matter much. That said, if we're talking ranged characters, like spellcasters maybe especially, then sure, right? Like now it's like, okay, well, like unless I'm going up against enemies that like have really good ranged attacks or can fly themselves, I can sort of just generally be safe all of the time.
You hover up there.
Yeah.
And if you're outside. Yeah. If it's an outside
or,
encounter, you hover
or
up.
the ceiling's big enough. Yeah. And so again, like it's so disruptive. Like that's what at the end of the day it kind of gets down to. You know what I mean?
It's just plain rude.
It just puts a lot of burden on the DM to kind of go, okay, well, dang it, like now I have to think like, okay, do I have to include like powerful like ranged enemies in every single one of my fights so that this player isn't just invincible? Right? I wasn't planning on doing that, but I guess everybody's got to have a longbow now, or whatever. Like,
yeah,
and
it is that, you're right. It is the pressure on the DM. It's not an unsolvable problem,
right?
But it's the fact that it always needs to be solved.
Yes.
Otherwise, you might as well have you could have 1,000 goblins with short swords.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you can fly.
Yeah, and like it trivializes like sort of using the terrain in like a 3D way where it's like, okay, I've got monsters up here that like aren't going to be easily accessible, and they can pop out and do some things, but then they can kind of stay safe. Well, not anymore because one of my characters can fly. So it's just kind of like I kind of wish that that Wizards of the Coast wouldn't have flight as any species trait, at least not in this kind of always on way. I don't mind it as much if you see it in like the recent like ASMR and the Dragonborn, right, where it's kind of limited use and you got to like activate it. That's still very good, but it's not as problematic, right? But yeah, this always on.
It's gate kept as well. Beyond 3rd level, I think, is the earliest a 2024 species can do it, and it's only once a day or mostly.
Right.
But let me hit you with
this
perspective as well. Sorry. If we're talking the most recent version of the Aaracokra, and we just accept that flying species are in the game, do you think that the Aaracokra is a particularly good flying species? If someone was like, I'm going to play a flying species no matter what, is the Aaracokra... I think the Aaracokra are they the weakest?
Maybe.
I'm thinking like fairies are probably better. I'm thinking owlin are probably better.
Well, okay, so let's think about this. Now I haven't looked at... Yeah, I think you're probably right. Because the Aaracokra don't bring a lot. That they still have their little talon that got buffed to a D6.
It's 1d6. It's over. It's over. They buffed it.
I mean, that's meh, right?
Look out.
And then they've got the Gust of Wind spell once per day.
It's not a great spell. I don't think Gust of Wind.
It's one of those.
It's not a build around.
It's one of those like nice when you need it, but otherwise kind of worthless type things. Whereas the other ones are they're probably better, right?
Yeah, the fairy gets the much better fairy fire and enlarge reduce, both of which are, I think, brilliant spells that are always useful.
Yeah.
And the Owlin get the superior dark vision and stealth. So from that perspective, if you just say, okay, we're allowing every species, Aaracokra in an odd way should never be picked, right? They're terrible,
right?
Because they're literally outclassed in everything they do.
Unless you just have this fantasy to play Jonathan.
Yes, I would rather Jonathan were here. I think we should wait for Jonathan. What a great movie. I reviewed it
was.
when it came out, and I was like, this is a masterpiece in the sense that it's just kind of good, fun distraction.
Yeah.
Much better than Marvel, but not like Lord of the Rings level.
No.
And then I watched it again recently. I was like, actually, in its way, this does go beyond just being entertaining. I think this is really, really good.
Yeah.
That's a different discussion, though.
Yes.
But hey, if we should do a watch party at some point. Just
I would
get
love
some
that.
friends together. And,
Yeah.
But so I think Aaracokra are really hard to evaluate for that reason, because with 30 feet of fly speed, they're the weakest flying species, but flight is kind of so powerful that many people ban it outright.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to put it. Should we? What are you thinking? I'll go with you. Would you say in the middle? Are they fair? Is it fair to say when people say Aaracokra are broken relative to every other species in the game, that's a reasonable claim, and that they're in hype is real?
I think I put them in put down the meth, but
You really would, yeah.
but like with the asterisk that like all flying species should also be here, right? Like,
Yeah, put that. You think all of them should be, knock off whatever you're smoking and stop letting people soar through the air for free.
Or all always on flying species should is like, so fairies and owlins too, right?
Yeah.
And above
Winged seaflings.
above Aaracokra.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that 50-foot fly speed, was even better.
But at the right table, with a DM who doesn't mind the disruption, right? Then I think they're fine in hype is real. It's like very good but not broken. It just, again, it's tough to evaluate it because it's so heavily dependent on the DM, and it puts a lot of pressure on them to just think more about all of their combat encounters. So yeah, I think I'd put them up there.
No, I agree, and I'm not such a fan of flight either. Not just for its power level, but also because it is quite a boring ability, in the sense that it's not like it opens up a whole new, potentially like, you can make this amazing build all around this interesting feature. It's just that you can now ranged attack from impunity. Really,
Yeah.
that's kind of the only thing flight seems to bring.
And maybe we should say, like, if we are, I guess, it depends on which version of the Aaracokra we're evaluating, right? Like, if we're evaluating the original, when they first put it in and there were no other flying species, and they had suddenly you have this species that has 50 feet of 5 speed, I'd be like, what the hell are you
No, you're
smoking?
right, actually.
Like, why
You're
are you
completely
doing
right. That is complete put down the meth material,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, if you evaluate it in the context of the time, it was crazy. No, I
Yeah.
think this is a great placement for them. This is an interesting one, though, coming up. This is the most recent Kobold, the Kobold from Monsters of the Multiverse.
The mom
which
Kobold.
the mom Kobold, which is, I like this species quite a lot. I'll read through it because there's quite a lot to this one. But your size is small. You have 60 feet of dark vision. I think the feature that people are putting this on this list for is Draconic Cry, which is, as a bonus action, you let out a cry at all enemies within 10 feet of you, and until the start of your next turn, you and your allies have advantage on all attack rolls against any of those enemies who can hear you. And you can use this trait a few times a day. You also get a feature called Kobold Legacy, which gives you a choice of 3 options: either proficiency in a skill, advantage on saves to avoid or end the frightened condition, or access to any sorcerer cantrip of your choice.
And you can use
there's-
whichever spellcasting stat you want.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
that
Yeah, you can use any, so it doesn't have to be charisma. Yeah, you can use intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for that. So there's quite a lot to think about with the Kobold. But what's your initial impression of our scaly friends?
My initial thought when I saw this was the original Kobold was better.
Let me take a look. I'll pull that one up as well, because I didn't consider, when people are talking about the Kobold, I assume they were talking about the new one.
The original Kobold had pack tactics, right? And so that you always have advantage as long as one of your friends is standing next to your target. And that to me, I don't know that I would call it broken, but it was very good, right?
Yes, I remember it now. They did, and they had a similar ability to the Draconic Cry called Grovel, Cower, and Beg.
Yeah.
Which was an action, not a bonus action.
Right.
But you cower pathetically and distract your foes, and then all allies gain advantage on all enemies within 10 feet of you. So they have a similar
So I
all
guess it
advantage
depends
thing,
on which version
but it's an action.
of the Kobold we're talking about. I think the latest one, that Draconic Cry, is really good. But
Yeah,
you
I
know,
agree.
advantage for just one round, granted for everybody, and no save, right? So it's kind of better than Fairy Fire and weaker than Fairy Fire, right? Better in that they don't get a saving throw. Worse and it doesn't require your concentration. Worse in that, you know, it only works for a round. So it's like, yeah, there were builds where I did a build once using the old using the old conjure animals. Remember where it could let you...
Oh, the one that just ate 8 giant owls or 8
eventually,
wolves.
32 like wolves or deer, you know what I mean? And it's just like, this is ridiculous. And and I built it with this kobold, and the shtick was, I'm not gonna do anything with my character other than cast Conjure Minor Elementals and run up to the group of enemies and use my Draconic Cry so that all of my 32 yaks have advantage on their attacks, right?
What a wonderful idea.
And it ended up out damaging any build that I've ever done ever.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, to be fair, that is a crazy spell. The Conjure Animals.
Yeah, it was more a result.
The
goal of the whole entire build was just to show people how stupid Conjure Minor Elemental, or I mean, Conjure Animals was.
Yeah,
the way that
really
it was often allowed
crazy.
to be played at tables, anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't think it's broken though. I think it's a nice, cool, and especially again, this is interesting in that, like, I think in 2024 this is actually less powerful as a result of how many more options and ways there are to get advantage now, right? Like it's via weapon masteries, especially. Like, it's so much easier to like knock people prone, or, you know, have Vex. You know, it just seems like there's even more ways now to get advantage, that not that it's trivial or anything like that, but like, it's just not as necessarily important to have a feature like this.
No, I think that's a really good point. I should add as well, I don't think we've mentioned, but the old Kobold also had sunlight sensitivity. So that pack tactics was kind of taken back by the fact that you have disadvantage on attack rolls if you're in sunlight. So it wasn't like it was always on. So are you thinking the Kobolds might be just innocent men? At the very top, maybe, or something like this?
Maybe kind of top of just innocent men, or bottom of Hype is Real. Remind me, Hype is Real
is that they're fairly evaluated as among the strongest in the game. Is Hype is Real? That it's real. When people say, "Oh, kobolds are really good," they're not blowing smoke. That's Hype is Real.
I think just innocent men.
Okay, yeah. So if someone came up to you and said, "Oh, kobold top 10 species, easily top 10, easily, or top 5," and you'd be like, I don't think so, buddy.
No, I would say good, but like, you know, not crazy broken. Now, you know, sure. I mean, it depends, as always, right? These things depend. Like the nice thing about it, like, it is something that you can really build around. And so you could be like, okay, team, in our session 0, right? Nobody worry about getting advantage, because I'm gonna be able to do that. And at our table, we generally only have 1 combat per long rest.
Oh, so
and
you
I know
will
that, right? So like, you know what I mean? So like, these things depend. It's like, okay, if I'm playing at a table where we probably only have 1 or 2 combat encounters per long rest, and I could come in and be like, all right, everybody, I know you wanted to play a Vengeance Paladin because of the advantage thing. Don't do that. Go Devotion instead, which is going to be stronger, because you're not going to need that advantage from Vengeance Paladin. And I know that you were planning on using a Maul so that you could topple your enemies, but you're not going to need to do that. So instead, you know, use a Great Axe so that you can cleave. You know, and kind of set that up, right? You were planning on casting Fairy Fire. You're not going to need to do that. So instead, concentrate on something else that's going to make our party stronger. Like, it's something that you can really kind of build around.
There's plenty to play with. I agree. And kind of going back to that 2024 thing again, the other feature, the free cantrip, is very potentially quite appealing for certain builds.
For sure.
A lot of spellcasters, or like maybe the bard would appreciate a firebolt, a very good damaging cantrip, or But in 2024, with Origin feats, they're much more accessible. So if that's really important to you, you can get it elsewhere. No, I think that's a great placement. I'm happy to see kobolds at the top of Innocent, because I'm a fan, and I agree. I don't think they are broken, but I think you can do a lot of clever and crafty things with them. So I think that makes them a very, very well-designed species, which is nice to see. But we'll see if that trend... I wonder if you think this is a well-designed species. This is the Yuan-Ti Pureblood. Do you remember this one?
This was the original, not the Monsters of the Multiverse updated Yuan-Ti.
This is, the Yuan-Ti Pureblood is specifically from Volo's Guide to Monsters.
Yes.
And when I remember this one because this was the talk of the town when I got into D&D. Like, if when you're learning the game and you're like, I wonder what the strongest species is. Definitely back in the day, this is the one that people talked about. With hindsight on our side, and the game having developed a long way, we'll see if that holds up. But I'll read out what this species can do, just for people who maybe came in more recently. So you have 60 feet of dark vision. You have magic resistance, so that's advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. You have absolute poison immunity, so no poison damage and no poison condition. Right. And you have the poison spray cantrip. You can cast animal friendship an unlimited amount of times, but only targeting snakes, so that's quite niche. And then you can cast suggestion once per long rest. And that's what the Yuan-Ti Pureblood.
But it has to be charisma.
It does have to be charisma. Yes, they used to do that back in the day. Yeah, they didn't give you the option. So it's just charisma. So what are your immediate thoughts? If you have them
this was definitely a lot stronger than the updated version that we got in Monsters of the Multiverse. Right there, I think they had like advantage on saves against poison and maybe resistance to poison damage.
Yeah, that immunity is gone.
Immunity and not immunity to the poisoned condition, right? Which those two things combined are very, very good. On top of that, advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. That just includes more than spells, right? And
so many things.
In the Monsters of the Multiverse, it was just spells, right? They updated it just.
I think all magic resistance has been upgraded to that. I think it's a kind of separate discussion, but that and other magical effects. I saw people go to war. I've seen men kill each other in the streets over what other magical effects include. I've heard people say that
Dragon's breath.
Yeah, is Dragon's breath a magical effect?
Yeah,
dragons are magical. I've heard people really get, genuinely, like, it's very important to find that out if you're playing this species. But if you do assume a generous interpretation, this is most saving throws in the game, honestly.
Yeah. Other than like physical kind of like traps and
that's it. Yeah, if it's physical
being
trap
knocked
or
prone and stuff like
a push, something like that. But so many things. So, I mean, what do you think this? I remember these guys being considered the best of the best, maybe alongside the Aaracokra back in the day, before we had the variant human and the Bugbear. What do you think? Do you think they hold up? Do you think that is a fair assessment?
I think I would probably put these at the top of Hype is Real.
Okay.
Personally. It's kind of like people complain about poison, monsters in the monster manual being, there's too many monsters that are immune to poison and poison condition and you can't build a poison build because everything's immune to it. And it's like, the reality is 20% of monsters are immune to the poison condition in the monster manual. And that's a lot, but like the majority of monsters are not immune to poison and the poison condition, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't like negate, and this is top of mind for me because I just recorded a video earlier this week where we were building around the Selune's Viper spell spell
I
from
don't know that one.
the Heroes of Faerun.
Oh.
It's a very good control spell, but it requires that the enemy not be immune to the poisoned condition, right? And so I've been thinking about this, and it's like, yes, that is a potential weakness of anything that you're doing with poison. But again, like, unless your DM is just going to be a prick and intentionally like try to counter you at every chance that they get, right? Like 4 out of 5 combat encounters, it's not going to come up, you know, or whatever.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's not all the time.
And so this to me is similar, right? It's like immunity to poison and the poison condition is very good. And how many monsters do poison damage? Like, I mean, there's a healthy heaping of them, but more don't do poison damage than do. You know what I mean?
Oh, by a long way. Yeah.
And so it's like this will be awesome. Like when it comes up, and your DM might be like, "Oh crap,
You forgot." Yeah.
Or yay for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't feel super game breaking to me. And then the magic resistance is really good, but it's just advantage on saves. It's not like immunity, and you know this isn't uncommon. We see this on other species. I mean, not the magical effects bit, right?
No, I was wondering if this is this better? If you forget the magical effects, but is this even better than the gnome resistance, which is on all intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saves?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Like, because they're similar, right? It like,
yeah,
like this.
And you've got ancients paladins.
Yeah, they've got it.
Who, granted, it's not until level 7 that they get their upgrade to their Aura of Protection, right? That gives you. Is it still? I think
they did. They change it to resist some types of spells. I can't remember now. That's been a long time.
Yeah. They did.
But yeah,
it's like.
I'll pull it up.
So it's not advantage on saves against.
It's resistance to necrotic, psychic, and radiant now. But yes, it was a thing when this was around.
Right. Right. And satyrs get the same kind of thing.
Oh, I forgot about satyrs. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's really good. It is really good. And like, I don't know. I don't play. I feel like at most of my campaigns, most campaigns that I've played in, especially when you're talking, up to level 10 or so, like we don't run into a ton of like casters as enemies.
No.
Right? It's not like there's like a lich in every fight or, or whatever, like, or an enemy mage in every fight, right? They tend to be more kind of boss fighty type things, and I guess it depends on your interpretation of magical effects. Sure, like if that's going to also give you advantage on saves against Dragon's Breath and things like that, then it's more powerful. But frankly, I think it would be very easy for a DM to be like, no, this is something that they do as part of their anatomy. This is not a magical thing.
I agree.
They're breathing fire.
I think,
that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you take that interpretation, it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it is only a defensive ability too. It's not like the Yuan-Ti is enabling a build which is completely crazy. It's not like, oh, you must play a Yuan-Ti to access, and that's how you optimize this. I mean, maybe you could do something with Cloud Kill and immunity to poison, and you hold people down.
Yeah.
But it's quite niche meme kind of tier combos rather than like, oh, this is a whole build. Yeah, I think hype is real is fair. I think you're right. I think they are just a fantastic, in terms of just a package that you get, it's a fantastic package, but it's not necessarily upending the entire game. I don't think there's going to be many DMs who are getting frustrated or upset. And it's not like if there's one person in the party playing Yuan-Ti, everyone else is going to be like, wow, we suck, right? Like, how do we compete with this?
We suck. This is no fun anymore because they're too powerful.
Yeah, they're hogging the spot. I don't think that would happen. Yeah, so I think that's a good place for them. Mate, would you think even below Mountain Dwarf for the +2/+2? I'd
probably put him above Mountain Dwarf.
Okay, yeah,
personally.
Top tier.
But you put them where you want.
No, I think that's fair.
I mean, because it can be, again, it depends a lot on your interpretation, depends a lot on your DM, and and what kind of monsters they're throwing at you. It has the potential to be like, oh wow, this is disruptive.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
This is a little too good. It's fairly easy to work around, but yeah, it does put some onus on the DM, I guess, to like make sure that it doesn't feel broken.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think the Yuan-Ti, more so even than the Mountain Dwarf, especially if you use the original Mountain Dwarf, not Tasha's, like, there isn't a build where the Yuan-Ti would ever be a bad choice. It's never going to be like, oh, Lord, you're ruining your character. It's always going to be good. It's just a very solid suite of power.
For sure.
So the next one we have is a sort of stand-in for 3 species, but I picked Hexblood because I suspect they are the most powerful of the 3. But these are the 3 lineages, not species, but lineages from Van Richen's Guide to Ravenloft, which is a horror campaign.
Right.
So there's a lot to this species. So I will read it all out because I didn't remember all of the stuff these guys have. So first of all, you're a Fae, which has advantages. I'm going to come back to this last one, Ancestral Legacy. I want to finish with that. You have 60 feet of dark vision. You have a feature called Eerie Token, which lets you, as a bonus action, remove a lock of your hair or a nail or a tooth. And then you can telepathically communicate with any creature holding that tooth or token of yours as an action. As many times as you like. So it's kind of remote telepathic communication. And you can also enter a trance to see through the area that your token is. So you can leave a tooth behind you in an area, go up to 10 miles away, and then see and hear as if you're in that token's place. So it's an interesting roleplay feature.
Or plant it on an enemy.
Yeah.
And now you've got a little Spidey tracker.
That's it. You can just... Yeah, it is. It is actually. Yeah, I've never thought about that. But if you slip a tooth into someone's pocket, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You can...
Although, if it's in the pocket...
Yes, you wouldn't see anything.
No, you can't see anything.
You'd want to... maybe a hair on their shoulder. That's probably the way to do it.
You have to be really good at placing it strategically.
You can also... There's a lot more. You can also cast Disguise Self and Hex once each, and they're added to your spell lists with any modifier you'd like. And I think the most significant feature to discuss in evaluating this species is... Or this lineage, sorry, is Ancestral Legacy. So... You replace an existing species with this. So you are a species, in theory, and then you become a Hexblood when you enter a coven of witches. So the way that works is you keep the skill proficiencies from that species and any climbing, flying, or swimming speed from that species. And then you ignore everything else that species gives you and you get the Hexblood features.
Yeah, I think you had a video back in the day where you were like, I think it might have been one of your shorts, maybe. I don't know.
If it's an old one, yeah, it will have been a short. I've definitely talked about this a long time ago, but yeah, what do you remember what it was? Where
you were like, okay, I'm a fairy, and so I can fly, and I know all of these spells, right? And then I become a Hexblood, and now I also have more spells and these cool abilities, and and so it's kind of like getting two species for the price of one.
Yeah, I don't know if you'd keep the spells. If I said that, I might have been wrong.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Maybe you would. I mean, you could argue. But yeah, that's the idea, isn't it? Is that every lineage is also a flying lineage, because you can just say, "Oh, I'm a fairy," and then, or I'm an owlin, or if you're 2014, I'm an Aaracokra, and now I'm a Hexblood with 50-foot flying speed. Which does seem wild, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess, again, this one really at the end of the day, what it boils down to is the Aaracokra overpowered? Because if it is, then this sort of by default has to be.
Yes, if you consider this as a flying species, most flying species get one other trait. You fly and you can cast a spell, or you fly and you have proficiency in stealth. Whereas this has loads of stuff, which are kind of good. And then
token, the Hex magic. And they can fly.
Yeah.
And they're a Fae. And,
as a minimum, they're going up here. But I want to float an idea. I guess as a minimum, they have to go ahead of Aaracokra because they're just strictly better. But
Yeah.
I want to hit you with this concept that I've heard someone argue, which is very funny, I think. Rules as written, which is a miserable way to play the game, but if, rules as written, you gain the fly speed of the species that you copy. So if you're a fairy, that means you copy the speed trait, which is 30-foot flight, 30-foot speed, and fly speed equal to your walking speed. You don't gain any other traits, so you don't gain the flight trait. Which is the trait that says you can't fly if you're wearing medium or heavy armor. So I'm sure that you would very quickly shut this down as a DM, but would you tolerate that as an argument that actually the Hexblood rules as written can fly in heavy armor? Because they copy a 30-foot fly speed and they do not copy the feature that says you can't fly if you're wearing heavy armor.
I think that is I think that is an accurate reading of rules as written. I can't imagine more than 1% of DMs being like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. You've convinced me. Like, you can wear heavy armor.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense as well. Like, if you're the same species you were before in theory, why do you suddenly 10 times as strong? But can you imagine? I mean, I think that would make them the best species of all time, I think. Being able to fly in heavy armor on top of everything else would just be...
Right. Yeah, there's a part of me that kind of looks at this and goes, I'm tempted to not put them so high up simply because my hunch is that most people who play Hexbloods don't abuse this.
Oh, okay.
They're playing a
I'm going to take them back down.
Hexblood because
let's have this discussion. Yeah.
They're playing a Hexblood because they want to be a hag. You know what I mean? And they like the macabre and it's a Halloween one shot. You know what I mean? Like, and they love the hex spell. I mean, that in and of itself, like hex for free is pretty great.
There's a lot of
at least for an early level campaign or for somebody who doesn't have like a weaponized bonus action. It can be very good. The Eerie token is cool and potentially really good if you can get the hair placed just right so that it doesn't fall off, your enemy or whatever. But then again, like it's no better than an invisible familiar that can just go do the same thing, or a druid with wild shape who can turn into a spider and go scout. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not broken by any means.
I agree. It's a fun ability.
The rest of this stuff is good and flavorful, and I don't think that there are. I don't think that most people. I'll bet if we had some magical way of polling everyone who's ever played a Hexblood,
if you want to throw up a poll,
how many of you were first a flying creature and then turned into a Hexblood so that you could have fly speed? I bet it would be a pretty small number of players, and the reason why that feels pertinent to me here is because, by contrast, the Aaracokra and the Owlin and the Fairy just fly all the time, and everybody knows it, and if you're playing this character, then you're flying, and that is potentially really disruptive. Whereas with the Hexblood, I bet 9 times out of 10, it's like a non-issue. Do you know what I mean?
You're right. I think you're right. And there's many reasons to play a Hexblood. You just ignore that feature altogether. And you just... Because if you don't have a previous species, you just get 2 skill proficiencies, which is nice. Whereas there's no reason to play an Aarakocra apart from flying. It's no one would ever say I'm an Aaracokra, but by the way, my wings are damaged and I'll never fly. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
So
that said, like now that I've played Devil's Advocate,
yeah, no, I think that was a great point though. You're completely right.
I do think that if we're talking from Wizards of the Coast's perspective, like what were you thinking? Yeah, I probably put down the meth, because what were you thinking? Like, why do you allow this? Like, you don't need this. Why are you saying that, like, hey, like, I get the fantasy of I used to be one thing and now I'm this. That's cool, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you used to be a human and now you're a hag. You used to be a goblin, but now you're undead, right? Like that's cool and fun and unique and interesting. You didn't need to leave you didn't need to put this sentence in here where if you have a fly speed, you can keep your fly speed. It's like, well, why? No, you became a zombie. You don't have wings anymore. They got decrepit. Maybe they're still there for flavor, but
I agree.
They're not functional.
The transformation ravages your body in unusual ways, and you do lose any unique speeds. Yeah. Okay, no, so maybe you're right. But, I mean, if we ignore the fly speed thing, and we just pretend that it's not there, would you say Hexblood are on the level of...
Just innocent.
Hype is real?
Just innocent men.
You think they're innocent men apart from...
Yeah.
And then the fly speed is what puts them up here. Okay, in that case, I'll leave them in innocent men, because I think you made a great point, and I'd like to kind of acknowledge that how sensible the community has been on this. I've actually got a video which I don't think will have come out by the time this video comes out, but it talks about some spells that are just crazy overpowered, but for some reason we as a community just don't use them that way, because we understand that it's not fun.
Sure.
And I think this is a similar point. I think we've been quite mature about the Hexblood and the Dampier, the original Dampier, and the Reborn. So, yeah.
Now, someone in the comments has a horror story, and we are so wrong.
We're triggering them so badly.
It's so abusable. Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
There are people who abuse things, and I'm probably guilty of that myself, or probably guilty of advocating for it in my history. I'm trying to reform.
Well, I think you can't account for... My attitude to always that is always like, you can't account for sort of bad sort of like if someone's coming to a game
Bad
with
faith.
malicious intent, the rules are completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Obviously, the point is to have a good time, and we always understand that. And, you know, I think you've got to kind of take that for granted. Because if someone comes to try and upset or usurp the flow of the game, they could be playing a sea elf, and they would still ruin everything. It doesn't matter how strong they are.
Yeah. Are we gonna do? We got to do a sequel now to like the worst.
The worst one.
Species.
I think sea elf, the original sea elf is hard to beat. I'm just sea elves catching strays over here.
Bad.
I just remember reading it years ago and being like, "What on earth is this nonsense?" It's like a swim speed and nothing else, right? Like.
And the Triton, like there were so many. It seems like the water genasi, like there's all these like, ooh, this would be awesome in an aquatic campaign. But like, okay, A, how many people are just playing like aquatic?
Yeah, you're underwater
campaigns?
all the time.
And B, even then, it's not that good.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Like,
yeah, you're right. We could do one. That would be fun. Let us know in the comments if you'd like that. Maybe on your channel we do a back and forth.
Sure. Sure.
But there is one left, and I think this is a community favorite. And in an interesting way, you can kind of look at this as a parallel to the Hill Dwarf, and that's the Warforged. So I'll read through it, because there's some things that people might have forgotten. There is a new version of this, but I think it's basically the same, so I'll go for the newest version.
Yeah.
So you are a construct. You have resistance to poison damage and advantage on saves to avoid the poison condition. You don't need to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep, and you can finish a long rest in 6 hours. You gain a skill proficiency and a tool proficiency of your choice. You don't gain dehydration from malnutrition, dehydration, or suffocation. And the big feature is you have a +1 bonus to your armor class. Just always on.
Yeah.
And your armor can't be doffed against your will while you're alive, which is, maybe that comes up. But yeah, you have a +1 bonus to your AC always. So what do you think about the Warforged?
Part of me looks at this and kind of goes, well, I mean, if the Warforged is overpowered, what's the shifter, right? Because the new shifter, I mean, the old shifter too, but the shifter potentially gets a +1 to their AC and some temporary hit points.
Yes, you would get a +1 when you are just wild. Actually, shifter would have been a good addition to this, because shifters are very, very strong.
Well, but the counter argument is it takes a bonus action to like shift, right? Whereas Warforged is just all the time +1 to your AC, and B, it's limited in use, right? It's proficiency bonus times per day. So those two things probably balance it when compared to just the always on all the time +1 to your AC. To me, the Warforged is really good. And it's even not so much just the +1 to their AC, but it's kind of like everything taken together. Like resistance to poison is nice. advantage on saving throws against poison is nice. Not being able to magically be put to sleep is nice. But these are all things that we see in other species, right? Elves have that kind of similar thing, right? Dwarves still have poison resistance, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I think so. I'll double check the 2024.
Yeah. And so
They do.
like these are just like a nice suite of like defensive bonuses. But and taken together in particular they're quite good. But I don't feel like it's overpowered. I mean, there are, again, the shifter gets temporary hit points and a +1 to their AC. If you've got the bonus action to spare and you're not having a ton of combat encounters per day, that's arguably better defensively. And some of these others that we're seeing on this list, I mean, Yuan-Ti Pureblood's like immune to poison and the poison condition and saving throws against all spells and all magic, right? They can't fly. Like, they're really good, but yeah, I don't know. I think to me they're hype is real territory. What do you think? I would say either bottom of hype is real or even top of innocent, because I think the reason the Warforged gets such a powerful reputation is that anytime you're talking about a theoretical look how wild the AC on this build is, people throw on the Warforged to make it more impressive. So if you're like, I can be a Blade Singer with the shield spell, and you throw on the Warforged, and then it's because a 26 AC sounds better than 25 AC. So I think people get into their head that the Warforged is like an essential part of this idea, but actually a +1 AC equates to only a 5% chance to dodge something you would have missed anyway. Like a +1 AC basically means 5% of all attacks are going to miss instead of hit you. So that's the same percentage chance that a halfling has to re-roll a nat 1. Which, when you think about it, if you were like, okay, instead of thinking about it +1 AC, if you said, okay, 5% of attacks that hit you, nothing against saving throws, and 5% of attacks that hit you are just going to do 0 damage, do you think that's like a broken ability? Are you like 5%? Right.
I don't know, man. It's fine. It's good, but it does nothing against crits.
Right.
Unless you're really building into it.
I do think that this makes the Warforged tankier than the Hill Dwarf. That's obviously the one that we were alluding to earlier, right? Because in my experience, not getting hit is much better than, being a little beefier.
When you get hit, yeah.
But getting hit more, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, and you see that play out when you crunch numbers for, say, for example, barbarian. Now I'm getting off on a tangent here, but like barbarians have a reputation for being like really tanky and really hard to kill at some tables, right? For some people, these barbarians, and especially back in the day, like
the
Totem,
immunity to
barbarians, right? They're just resistance to everything, and like they get a D12, hit die, and they just never die. But in my experience, that's not the case, because if you're playing a barbarian right, you're recklessly attacking all the time, and so people have advantage on all of their attacks against you, and resistance is nice, and the D12 hit die is nice, but like if you're getting hit kind of all the time, you're gonna go down, right? And so anyways, so I find extra AC to be more valuable generally, because most monsters are making attacks against you, not forcing saving throws.
Yes,
right?
It's true. Yeah.
So yeah, all that said, though, I think we're probably in alignment here.
I think maybe right.
I feel bottom. Like maybe bottom of hype is real or top of innocent.
I think maybe if you factor in the poison, the fact that you're a construct does have some niche uses. There's spells that only target humanoids. Warforged are the only 5e species that the Battlesmith Artificer companion can heal every turn. I mean, it's something. If you're a Warforged Battlesmith, you've got repeatable heal. I mean, that really is quite tanky then. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think this looks like a pretty reasonable.
I feel good. I feel good about Bottom of Hype is Real.
I mean, I'm looking back on the list now, and I feel like, you gave a great case for the Hexblood, and I really like where it landed. I would have imagined it would have been up here, but I think I like it down there.
Yeah. I can see it being in either places, either ahead of the Aaracokra or just Innocent.
Funnily enough, it's never never fairly evaluated, right? It's never Hype is Real. It's either crazy or just Innocent. But yeah. I mean, this was really fun. I'm thinking, I do think Variant, Bugbear being the under one. I guess we'll have to maybe consider rolling this back with the weakest species, or maybe some of the most regarded subclasses. I think there's certainly, maybe even more so than species, there's certainly subclasses out there that people really, really hype and really, really love, that are perhaps less powerful than, when you crunch the numbers, than people think. So that could be a really fun video.
No, I agree. This would be a fun Friday afternoon. Well, it's Friday afternoon.
Friday night chat.
You know, and end of the week kind of hang out, just chatting about
how
stuff.
many Ds have we got? They would be like the D6 podcast, I guess. We got D&D shorts, D&D, D4 deep dive.
Yeah, there you go. I think Kyle and Marty.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, those the dungeon lads
already laid claim to D6, because we did a collab a couple years ago that was D&D deep dive in the dungeon.
Oh, there you go. You got the D6. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to come up with something
that's
better,
so like them.
so
Thieves.
that,
they are thieving worms of men. I say that in men, as if boys. Of course they would steal an idea years before I had it. That's exactly the kind of snake-like behavior I'd expect from Kyle and Marty.
Fake beefs with friends are the best.
I agree. It's one of my
favorite.
I feel all the more closer to them with every sort of insult, completely unprovoked as well. It was really out of nowhere. Like, we just started clowning on each other.
Well, yeah, it was back in the when we were doing that. Everybody's reacting to everybody else's reaction.
Yes, it was about the reaction
attack of opportunity. The assist of opportunity chain, and you for sure had the best one of all of them. While you were
eating the
munching on that apple,
I was like wearing the
apple pieces flying,
jerk,
and you're
like
just
yelling into camera. It's absolutely
everybody.
Unwatchable. If you're like, it's so horrible.
Oh, that is not true at all. That is like peak cinema.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, I don't blame people for clicking off immediately with this, like, the spittle flying at the thing. It's art. It's high art.
So good. It's so good. And the best part was the comments, like, because there were a lot of people that were like, "Wait, what? Like, why are you mad at the dungeon dudes? Like, and what? How come Colby is,
the most innocent? It's a very innocent, friendly community as well. I think that's what makes it so funny. There's so many, lovely people that it's kind of a great time to dive in.
My favorite bit that I didn't even catch at first until I started reading the comments, and this, I'm assuming this was intentional on your part, but the subtitles for the video, you're talking and you say Colby from D4 Deep Dive, but the subtitle said Dilf.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Dilf 4 Deep Dive. Yeah. Yeah, I remember doing that. Yeah. I mean, I calls them like I sees them, I mean, so I forgot about that.
That was so good.
Yeah, there's so much fun to be had in those kind of.
I didn't see it.
What a great time. Okay, well, I'm always down for fake beef. If you wanna go and fight at some point, that's great too. Meet me in the parking lot anytime.
Okay, I'm coming. You know what? I'm flying to England.
Yeah, we will have to do something when you're here. Even if it's just you beating me up, that would be great too. Okay. Well, thanks so much. I mean, I wonder how long this was. Probably at least an hour. So this will be a great little podcasty video. I'll come through and edit this together, put on some text so people know what we're talking about. But hopefully a chill Friday for all you guys out there. Remember to go and subscribe to Colby. Remember to go check out Mythozoology while it's still on Kickstarter for just another week or so. And have you got anything you want to shout out, Colby, while you're here?
No, man. Thanks for the invite. Love you, dude. This has
Yeah,
been a
I
lot
love
of
you
fun.
too. Thanks so much, man, for everything you do for our channel, for D&D Shorts, but just generally for the community. And again, for all the help with mythozoology. So please go and subscribe to Colby, guys. He is the best.
Thanks.
I think that's everything, okay? And I'll see you guys later. I'll say goodbye.
Okay,
Bye.
see ya. Have a great weekend.